Good morning, family. Welcome to HGW Community 72. I am Miss B, Bohemian Soul. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, welcome. If you are not new here and you are a returning visitor or returning subscriber, thank you so very much. Also, let me just say thank you to all my new subscribers that I have received really in the last 7 days. I've received about, I think, 7 or 8 new subscribers, as many as 2 on yesterday. So thank you and welcome to HGW, which stands for Homegrown Wellness Community 72. So I want to get into the video pretty quick. And the title of this is Divorce Will Challenge Your Self-Esteem, but you can recover. Divorce will challenge your self-esteem, but you can recover. So those that know my story, divorced last year after a 14-year marriage. And I'm really going to speak to women in this particular video. Not that these things don't affect and won't affect a man that has been, that has divorced, their ex wives. But today, this morning, I want to speak to women that have divorced their ex-husbands. And I am speaking to a heterosexual marriage, between a man and a woman. Not that those that are in same gender marriages, can't pull from this, but I'm speaking to a marriage between a man and a woman. So divorce will and can affect your self-esteem. And the reason being, and I'm speaking from a personal experience, I'm speaking from women that are friends of mine. We've had discussion about how when they, divorce, and we all know that I think it's like 80% of divorces are filed by women, and I think that speaks a lot as well. But I'm not going to get into why the majority of divorces are filed by women. I'm not getting into that, but the majority of divorces are filed by women. And for a woman, so how does it start to affect the self-esteem? For a woman to have been married to the love of her life, and I'm talking to traditional marriages, I'm not talking to this modern crap, but I'm talking to marriages and women that marry under traditional agreements, traditional vows. Because in order for you as a woman to come to a point, or to have been brought to a point where you go down to your town, your state court, and file to break up, to end what was supposed to be a lifelong, right, commitment. Because no woman, and I've spoken to this before, no woman goes into a marriage thinking, well, if this doesn't work out, I got a plan B. There is no plan B. It's plan A, right? For lifelong. To death do us part. So when you have to go down to your state court and file to divorce what was supposed to be your death do you part spouse, husband, it messes with your mind. It messes with you. It messes with your self-esteem, because you're literally having to fill out documentation as to why you can no longer be committed to the vows and to the man, unto the vows that were under God. See, that's what does it, right? Because for a woman, we take our vows seriously. And I'm not saying that men don't, but when we say we take those vows before, under God, in front of witnesses, obviously, and you're looking at your soon-to-be ex-spouse or your spouse, soon-to-be spouse, and now you're having to write up paperwork, because see, verbally, soulfully, spiritually, you spoke these vows under the Lord to your future husband, to death do us part, right? And health and sickness, for good or for bad, y'all know, to honor him. You spoke those things. You took a covenant, and now here you are. I'm talking about how it messes with your self-esteem, y'all. Here you are, writing, documenting why the covenant has to be broken. It messes with your self-esteem because it's so not personable, right? It's so not traditional. And the paperwork takes about maybe 15 minutes to file. You submit it. You get a letter back. And maybe 3 weeks, a month. Court date to end this. And in that waiting to get the letter for your court date, which is then usually another month, right? Because in the state of Connecticut, you don't have to be separated for a certain amount of time. I know in some states, I think you have to be separated either for 6 months or a year before you can file. In Connecticut, you don't. And obviously, that's where I'm talking from. And so you get your letter back with the court date, and usually it's like another month. So now you're looking at 2 months when you started this process. You're looking at, have you had contact, with your soon-to-be ex-spouse in the last 60 days? And if you have, it's usually not a positive thing. There's a lot of harsh things being said to you from your ex. If you have children, you're looking at your children in this household where your spouse no longer resides, and you're saying to yourself, I failed my children. And if you file for divorce under, like myself, for abusive reasons, that messes with your self esteem and your self-worth, because you're saying to yourself, how did I allow that? If I love myself so much, how did I allow myself to be in an abusive situation? You start looking back at all the signs, but again, it messes with your self-esteem and your self-worth, because you're saying to yourself, I didn't do it. I didn't get married. how to end it. I did it because, this is my person, right? This is my better half, right? I'm his rib, my partner, till death do us part. And you have now experienced the death of your marriage. But I am here to tell you, through that time, there needs to be therapy, counseling taking place, a lot of self-reflection, because here comes the recovery. When you can say in that space of looking back over however many years it was to where you got to this point, if you can say to yourself, I did everything that I could do, and I know for myself I was able to say that I did everything that I could do to save this marriage, but it had come to an end. That's the process of your healing, or the beginning of your healing, and that is the beginning of the recovery, of being recovered, of recovering, and you're recovering, your healing looks like and feels like tomorrow won't be as hard as today, and 2 weeks from now won't be as hard as today. And I know that I'm not going to always feel this way, and I know that I've done everything that was in my power to keep it together, but it came to a death. But if you know in your spirit and your soul and your mind that you're not always going to feel and be at the place where you are today, but tomorrow it's going to be better, that is the recovery. So I just wanted to speak to that, and I just wanted women to know that, if you're in the beginning stages of the divorce, if you're in the beginning stages of the marriage coming to an end, if you are getting ready to go file, know that yes, your self-esteem, your self-worth will be affected because there's a death. But know also that you will recover. Family, be well.